Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today's story is one of the most shocking and intense developments of this entire conflict. The Crimea Bridge, also known as the Kerch Bridge, has suffered yet another deadly hit, and this time the level of destruction is unlike anything seen before. The footage, the satellite images, the eyewitness reports, all of it points to one thing. This was not a small attack, not a symbolic strike, but a complete breakdown of Russia's most important supply lifeline connecting Crimea to mainland Russia. And the timing, once again, has sent shockwaves through the Kremlin, the Russian military, and the entire region. This strike did not come out of nowhere. For weeks, analysts had been warning that the bridge was vulnerable. But once again, Russian defenses, despite being upgraded, reinforced, and heavily monitored, were caught off guard by an attack that was swift, precise, and devastating. And that raises the biggest question. How did this happen again? How does one of the most strategic and protected structures in Russia's control keep suffering repeated blows? Before diving into those details, let's talk about what exactly happened during this strike. Overnight, reports began surfacing of loud explosions echoing across the water near the bridge. Residents in nearby towns said that the glow from the blast could be seen miles away. Fishermen on the eastern side described the blast waves hitting their boats. The attack was so intense that within minutes, Russian emergency response teams were rushing to the area, desperately trying to assess the extent of the damage. By the time the sun rose, one thing was extremely clear. The bridge had suffered another deadly hit. Large sections of the roadway were destroyed. Concrete slabs had collapsed. Steel structures were twisted and snapped. Entire spans of the bridge were missing, and the tanker-style fire that erupted after the blast burned fiercely for hours, making rescue operations even more difficult. And here's the thing, this wasn't just the usual targeted hit meant to cause minor destruction. This was total, complete, undeniable damage. Russia's most prized logistics artery was left crippled, possibly unusable for months, and this happened under the watch of one of the most fortified defense zones in Russian territory. Now let's talk about how such a strike might have been executed. Russian officials have given multiple conflicting statements, as they usually do after a major embarrassment. Some claimed it was a sea drone attack. Others insisted it was a missile strike. A few even blamed Western, supplied long-range systems. But one fact remains. Whatever method was used, it was able to break through layers of radar, electronic warfare systems, patrol boats, helicopters, and missile defense positions. If sea drones were used, they were clearly more advanced, faster, stealthier, and more explosive than previous versions. Each new attack demonstrates an evolution in Ukrainian tactics and technologies. If missiles were used, the precision indicates that the strike was perfectly timed, perfectly guided, and executed with pinpoint accuracy. Now let's talk about what this destruction actually means. The Crimea Bridge is not just a bridge, it's a symbol. It represents Russia's claim over Crimea. It represents Putin's pride. It represents Russian military logistics. Every fuel truck, every armored vehicle, every troop transport, every supply chain into Crimea depends heavily on this route. And with the bridge down again, Russia faces a logistical nightmare. Military convoys will have to go through long, vulnerable routes, using ferries, old Soviet roads, or rerouted supply lines that take days instead of hours. This slows down operations. This complicates reinforcement. This disrupts fuel delivery. This weakens artillery availability. This forces Russia to stretch its military resources while already struggling on multiple fronts. This strike does more than destroy physical infrastructure. It destroys confidence. It shows the world that no matter how many systems Russia deploys, no matter how many warnings it gives, no matter how many threats it makes, it cannot fully protect its most valuable asset in region. Now let's talk about the political shockwaves. Inside the Kremlin, moments like these trigger panic. The leadership has to respond. They have to show strength. They have to blame someone. They have to promise retaliation. But everyone knows that the loss of the bridge is a blow to Putin personally. This was his project, his pride, his proof of control. Each time it gets destroyed, it chips away at the image he tries so hard to maintain, and the Russian public. They are growing frustrated. They are asking questions. How many times will this happen? Why can't the government protect anything? Why are billions of rubles spent on defense systems that don't work? These questions are dangerous in a system where public opinion is tightly controlled. Now let's move to the military consequences. Ukraine has made it extremely clear they aim to isolate Crimea. They want to cut it off, to break the connection, to weaken Russian forces until the peninsula becomes unsustainable to hold. This strategy is not new, but every successful strike on the bridge accelerates this process. It speeds up the pressure. It increases the Russian burden, and it pushes the conflict toward a point where Moscow has to either reinforce massively or pull back. But one of the biggest parts of this story is the failure of Russian air defenses. For months they've claimed that Crimea is the most heavily defended region in the entire war. And yet, this bridge keeps getting hit. The Russian military keeps repeating that they intercepted threats, but the damage always tells a different story. Russian telegram channels filled with panic are a clear sign of the confusion inside the system. Now, let's talk about the global reaction. International media immediately picked up the story. Analysts around the world began speculating about the method, the intent, and the consequences. Many pointed out that this strike comes at a critical time in the war, when momentum is shifting, when front lines are moving, and when both sides are preparing for winter operations. Western nations see this attack as a sign that Ukrainian capabilities are improving rapidly, especially with advanced technology, intelligence coordination, and evolving drone systems. Meanwhile, countries that support Russia quietly worry about the optics. Each successful strike makes Russia appear weaker, less capable, and less prepared. Now let's address the strategic meaning behind this strike. The timing suggests calculation. Hitting the bridge at night reduces casualties but maximizes damage. It disrupts traffic, delays movement, and forces Russia to scramble emergency teams at the worst possible time. The attack also sends a psychological message. Nowhere is safe, no structure is too strong, no defense is perfect. And as the sun rose, the reality became clear. The bridge was not just damaged, it was devastated. Repairs will take months, maybe longer. Engineers will have to rebuild entire spans. Naval traffic beneath the bridge is already restricted. Military supply routes are delayed. Commanders are forced to make emergency adjustments. And there's something even more important. Every time this bridge is hit, it becomes weaker structurally and practically. Even if Russia rebuilds it again, it will forever remain a vulnerable target. It will never be fully secure. It will always be one strike away from collapsing again. This is why Ukraine continues targeting it. It is not just symbolic, it is tactical. It slows Russia. It drains resources. It breaks morale. It forces military planners to constantly adapt. And it gives Ukraine a psychological edge in the war narrative. Now let's focus on Putin's reaction. Whenever the bridge is hit, we see quick statements from Russian officials claiming calm, control, and confidence. But behind closed doors, panic rises. Advisors are questioned, commanders are blamed, intelligence failures are examined, and the political cost grows heavier. Each strike makes it harder for Putin to convince his people that victory is inevitable. Each collapse makes it harder for him to maintain the image of control, and each failure reveals the cracks within the Russian state machine. Now, as we move toward the conclusion, let's talk about the future. Will the bridge be repaired? Absolutely. Will Russia claim everything is under control? Of course. Will they attempt to harden defenses again? Without a doubt, but the reality is harsher. The bridge will remain one of the most threatened, targeted, and vulnerable structures in the entire region. Ukraine will keep hitting it, Russia will keep trying to defend it, and the world will keep watching this symbolic battlefield where pride, power, strategy, and technology collide. The destruction of the Crimea Bridge is not just an engineering failure. It is a strategic turning point. It shows that the conflict is evolving. It shows that modern warfare relies heavily on precision, intelligence, and adaptability. And it shows that even the strongest structures can fall when determination, technology, and strategy align. This entire story is far from over. More strikes may come, more damage may occur, and the consequences of this latest attack will unfold in the coming weeks and months as Russia scrambles to adjust. Thank you so much for watching. Stay informed, stay aware, and stay tuned for the latest updates. If you found this explanation helpful, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. There is so much more to uncover, and we will continue bringing you detailed analysis as events unfold.